damn.
Yeah, I'm at my dad's.
Oh, okay.
Very nice.
Yeah, so, doing a little traveling, hanging out with him. He's been cooped up here for the last couple of weeks, so I'm giving him a little bit of company for a few days.
Well, that's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
You crossed the border.
Yeah, across the border. I thought we were going to get stopped, but nah, it's not like that at all, actually. It's actually no traffic. It's actually easy drive to get down here. So
Yeah, I think they stopped that after a while because they were originally stopping people at the borders at some point, and then I think now they're kind of loosening stuff up. So
yeah, it's weird because like here, like their approach is a little different here than it was in Ontario. Like, man, they're like, you go into a store and they're like, they're screaming at you, wash your hands, and it's like, whoa, okay, sorry, here you go. And obviously they say in French. So
when I was coming back from Costa Rica, when this whole thing was going down, like there was like no screening, nothing, no questioning, anything. It was pretty much just like one prompt on like the screen. It's just like, you agree to isolate for 14 days. I could have just clicked yes and like, I don't know, went downtown and hit the club or something, like if I really wanted to. But like that was it. Like that was the only screening like I had. And one little screen that just said, hey, just check mark, don't do anything stupid.
There's a lot of I don't know, there's a lot of like, I know we're a podcast here, there's a lot of fuckery going on, if you don't mind me saying that. Leave that out.
Excuse me, Mr. Moroney, watch your fucking language, okay? It's okay. This is you can say whatever
yeah,
you
we're like, I want to see Dan and Hinge today. Let's get him there.
But yeah, no, it's there's a lot of fucker around. I have friends in Vancouver, BC, who are telling me that they're actually like they're here, like there's people who are traveling from Washington State to Alaska, and like they're just hanging out. Oh, we're from Texas. Like, Texas, what are you doing? Oh, they're letting people through the border so they can drive from Seattle all the way to Alaska, which is like, holy shit, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, I read an article about that today. They're trying to put a stop to that somehow, but I don't know how they're going to do it. No. It should be interesting.
It's a really interesting way to kind of bypass the whole, like, we're going to close the border thing.
Yeah, go on a boat and paddle your way to Alaska. Have a good time. So I don't know. But.
Excellent. Well, I do want to thank you very much for like taking the time. I know because you even in between travel to like come on here, we can get a good conversation going on. Especially want to hear more about you, how you've been doing throughout this entire process. I know it's been a while since you've been at your academy to have your students there, but you also were able to get online content going out for your guys, and which is awesome. So we kind of like just talk to you more about you, your story, how you've been doing, and then let's let loose. Really, that's kind of the deal.
Yeah, well, where do I begin? It's like the Genesis, okay, and God created. No kidding, I'm joking. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm Dan Moroney, professor of Jiu-Jitsu, 4th degree black belt under Master Gracie of Gracie Humita. Been at this a very long time. Been training since 1992. Originally training under my brother Sil Moroney, who's a 4th degree black belt as well, and my brother being the godfather of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I call him the godfather. He's one of the main pioneers. He doesn't get enough credit. He's cemented his presence in Ontario for 1992 to 2000, and moved to Montreal to 2000 and on. Look, I'm not even talking about me. I'm talking about him. But with myself, I was basically his right-hand man for all those years. And when my brother moved away, I started my own academy, Bravado Jiu-Jitsu, and got my black belt in July of 2001 from a gentleman named Professor Maurição Miguel Pereira, who's deceased. He passed away about 10, 11, 12 years ago, unfortunately. And which, because of all the, politics and stuff, I'm officially the first Canadian Canadian-born black belt. Now, obviously, there's other black belts, but they're obviously from Brazil, like Marcasaurus and stuff like that, obviously. But I'm the first Canadian-born person to become a black belt, which is, man, heavy. It's still kind of, I gotta pinch myself sometimes. But and you know, and the funny thing, there's a lot of people don't know the politics of that time, and it was like there was a lot of crazy stuff going on. And again, I'm going to be very, you know, polite and, you know, unfortunately a little politically correct, because obviously, you know, it's about respect, and I'm a firm believer in respect. And there's a lot of people who, you know, paved the way and stuff. And, you know, it was a wild west in those days. You know, like there was no, you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rules-oriented tournaments. It was like grappling tournaments, and there was a lot of stuff going on. It was really crazy. But, you know, I mean, we all had to go through some growing pains. And, you know, I firmly believe that, you know, today we're better than ever. You know, Canada, I find, is a very underrated country when it comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We have a lot of great, amazing talent here. Obviously, you had, you know, Maddie, you know, Tony's son, you know, on the podcast, you know, and the kids. I mean, I held him when he was a baby, you know, in my arms. I had Grappling Arts Academy in 1998, 1999.
And guess what? You're still holding him like a baby right now.
I know, man. I'm getting old, man. You know, I hate talking. I hate talking about my age. But anyways, yeah. But
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I can talk on forever. But anyways, you know, like there's amazing talent, you know, and we're seeing it today. And it's amazing because, you know, being part of I hate calling myself the first, because, you know, because there's my brother and there's other people. There's the Dirty Dozen, you know, a lot of other great guys who I'm very good friends with, a lot of the other black belts and, you know, the black belts. And it's amazing how a lot of people think, oh man, is there risks and stuff? It's like, no, not at all. Actually, in the Toronto scene, everybody for the most part gets along. You know, obviously there's going to be some people who don't agree with other people, but you know what, so be it. But you know, I would say the majority of the black belts, the majority of the school owners, I'm on really good terms with. And you know, like we've lost a few people. You know, my own brother had to close his school down, which was very unfortunate. It was a business decision, obviously, and for him, it was just a necessary thing that he had to do, so that, you know, you know, stuck in a place where, you know, obviously the business aspect, which is cutthroat, you know, had to pay his rent while he was closed. It's just not going to work. So, you know, for myself, you know, our academy is very strong. You know, 300 students. Well, not anymore, but a little bit less. But you know, we have a very solid, you know, foundation core of students and stuff. A lot of them are actually, you know, like just, you know, chomping at the bit to come back on the mats. And obviously with this kind of, I hate calling it the new norm. I just can't stand calling it that. But, you know, for the next couple of months, it's going to be, unfortunately, you know, we're going to have some sacrifice a little bit and do things that we don't want to do. But that's what we have to do to reopen and get back into things and stuff. I'm all over the place.
No worries. This is awesome. Let's go back to, so your brother Sil was like kind of like I would say maybe like one of your biggest influences when it came to jiu-jitsu and martial arts. What was kind of like your origin story? What's like your first memory of training? It doesn't have to even be jiu-jitsu, but like martial arts in general, because you guys grew up together, you know, fighting in the backyard and the backwoods of Quebec.
Well, if you, I mean, if you've stalked my Facebook, you probably see photos of me and my brother in my aunt's backyard, you know, doing some like martial arts kung fu drills and stuff. I was like, I think 11, 12 years old, you know. Martial arts has been a big part of my life ever since I was 7 years old. I, you know, started doing judo at my elementary school. Had a program there, and I started doing judo in there. And the sensei was a black belt under Nakamura, who's a very well-known, respected judo martial arts black belt, judo black belt, excuse me, in Canada. Montreal, obviously. Montreal's a very big hotbed for martial arts, has been for a long time. Yeah. And got into obviously that, and then got into like Jeet Kune Do stuff, Bruce Lee, you know, like Wing Chun Kung Fu, Kali Arnis, Muay Thai, because Muay Thai was a big influence. They had the grappling aspect as well in the Jeet Kune Do oriented stuff, Larry Hartzell grappling and stuff. But then, you know, obviously with the judo influence and the wrestling from high school, you know, and it just kind of bred into their stuff. And actually my brother was actually, you know, knew about the Gracies in 1989. I saw a, you know, adult publication and you know, read the
Sorry,
article.
is that code for X-rated movie?
Yeah. So there was an article.
Hey, honey, look what I saw on this DVD.
We laugh about it because every time we talk about it, you know, people like roll their eyes. And like, he read the article. He got the magazine because of the article. And
sure he did.
Yeah.
Sure he did.
And in the Montreal Underground, you know, a lot of people were talking about the Gracies, you know, in 1988, in 1989. And my brother actually got the fortunate opportunity to train with a guy named Mike, who was going back and forth from Montreal to Los Angeles, and actually was training with the Gracies with Horian and Hickson and, you know, all those guys, you know, and a lot of it was in Horian's garage. So he was going for a month and coming back, and my brother was training with this guy Mike, and my brother being he was just a sponge. He was able to basically learn all the information that Mike learned from the Gracies, and about the second weekend would basically be able to tap him out with that information. And then Mike would go back, you know, all pissed off and begrudgingly, and basically, you know, complain to those guys. I got a guy in Montreal, this little dude is just beating the crap out of me. I'm teaching him. And they say, well, it means you're a good teacher, because if you're teaching him and he's tapping you out with it, well, that means he's getting information. And a couple of years later, we actually brought Horian and Hoist down, 1994, if I'm not mistaken, for the first seminar. There was actually a couple of months. It was actually, I think it was 5 or 6 months after UFC 1, which, if you have to understand, these guys were like gods, you know. Anyways, to see Hoist Gracie on the mat, and, you know, that was crazy. So that was kind of like the birth of our training. And unfortunately, those days, it was almost impossible to find people to train. And you got to understand the craze. So there was a lot of opportunity, and obviously costs. So, you know, we're a bunch of broke kids from Montreal. We're trying to, you know, get a footing into this. And obviously dollars and stuff, it was big dollars to try and become part of their training association. And I mean, if I gave you dollar figures, it would stagger you, right? And that was like 1994, you know, dollars. We're talking like, you know, $10,000, you know, like, and again, I'm just speculating, right? Like, you know, don't quote me on that one, but even though we're on a podcast, but, you know, but it was tough, you know, and then we started to basically trickle into other people's camps. We got involved with the Machado brothers, who were amazing. Got to train with Carlos, Keegan, Jean-Jacques, and John. Myself, I trained 4 out of the 5. I never trained with Hadra Machado, but he was actually a very, very good instructor. But again, same thing, you know, like, just things just didn't seem to mesh. Not that they were bad. It's just that timing and obviously funds and stuff, it was tough, right? And then we brought Hoist again, you know, and another time. Then we brought Hensel Gracie down in 1998, if I'm not mistaken. And actually, a lot of people don't know, we were actually this close to becoming a Hensel Gracie affiliate in 1998. The only reason it didn't happen is because Hensel Gracie was going through some litigation with a former business associate, and he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to stay in the United States. He was going to go back to Brazil. So he says, look, let's put everything on hold and we'll talk. And actually, that's when I got involved with somebody else. You know, it was kind of like the domino effect, right? Butterfly effect. And we got actually involved with a gentleman who was training actually out of Winnipeg, who was bringing down a gentleman from Flavio Bering's camp. And for those who don't know, my Grandmaster Flavio Bering is one of Grandmaster Elo Gracie's original students, and amazing. And then part of the Bering family, we got to train with Master Silvio Bering at the time, or professor at the time. He's a master now, and started to train with him as well. And, you know, like I said, you know, like, these are all, again, like, these are relationships, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So, you know, my affiliation with Master Silvio, you know, happened for a little bit and stuff. Things didn't obviously work out. We moved on, actually, and I started to train. I went to Brazil, actually, for almost 2 months, and trained at Master Silvio's academy, along with his cousin, who was Professor Morisson, and I trained with him. And then, you know, throughout the years, Professor Morisson came back to Canada, started to train with myself, and then train with Rodrigo. Those that don't know, Rodrigo Mandruca, you know, highly respected competitive black belt. And 2001, came and spent 2 weeks with me. I was a brown belt at the time, and told me the night before, I'm gonna make you my 7th black belt, which was like, I was just stunned. I was like, what? And because obviously, and it's great I'm talking about this because I haven't talked about this for a long time. A lot of people thought, there was rumors that I bought my belt, and that's utter horseshit because I was poor. I was living in my academy. I was and my parents moved away. They moved back to Montreal, and I was living in my academy for almost a year, sleeping on the floor. So I was broke as a joke. So so for those who think I bought my belt, think again. I trained every day with Moroney, when I was in Brazil, and then when he was here, and then and then like I said, the rest is history. And it was very, very fortunate back then to. And again, same thing. The distance Brazil, Canada was tough. I wasn't able to make it to Brazil, Moroney either. So actually we kind of lost contact, and then I got involved with Royler actually through one of my students. One of my students actually is a karate owner, and was able to train with one of Royler's guys out in New Jersey. And then basically got the meeting together, and man, it's bam. Everything was basically there. Late 2004, we became part of Gracie Muay Thai. Well, which RGDA, which became Gracie Muay Thai.
And you haven't looked back since.
I haven't looked back since. And listen, I have an amazing relationship with Royler. I consider him, he's my teacher, he's my master. I consider him a friend as well. But again, for me, I'm a very samurai oriented. He's my master, my teacher. That's the respect I give him. And obviously, we talk as friends and stuff. But he's actually given me lots of insight and wisdom throughout the years and stuff. And I'm very proud to be a part of the Gracie Muay Thai family. It's a huge family, and very proud to be a part of it.
No, I think that's amazing, especially with all the different schools and all the different affiliations that are around, and you find a relationship that works for you. And we've been talking about that with a lot of different places and saying hey, some people work and some people don't. And it's just about finding that right connection and just really working towards your progress and building off of those.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, Aaron, because, you always hear the word, it's a dirty word, crianche, trader. And a lot of people don't understand the wording of that. And again, if you're moving away, if your instructor is not giving you what you need, and I understand that because again, with all the affiliations that I was training with Renzo Gracie, and I loved Renzo. I still do, and still have a great. Even today, he sees me, and every time we bump into each other, he's getting mad at me that I don't visit him, right? So, which is really amazing. And he remembers me even 10 years, 20 years later. It's like yesterday, But then he tells me, when I tell him, he sees me with the patch on. He goes, Royler, he's lucky guy to have you, And so to hear that kind of stuff, it's great. I was actually at a conference last year in Las Vegas, and I was able to train with Carlos Machado, Master Carlos Machado. And, we had a really great conversation, and, it was and the thing is that, we talked like it was 1996, and, we just continued the conversation like it was yesterday. And I hold those people so dear to my heart, and we're all part of one family, Jiu-Jitsu family. So, so that kind of word that, the crianche is today is, I understand, when you're younger, you're competitive, and, you want to be fierce for the team and stuff. Then people start to realize that, hey, sometimes my own brother is no longer part of Gracie Muay Thai. He's on his own, not in any bad way. It's just that was his decision, and I respect that. But he respects the fact that I'm part of the Gracie Muay Thai. And, Royler is still very, on very good terms with my brother and stuff like that, and who knows, my brother may actually return to the team, but, and that's not anything in any negative way. It's just, it was more of a financial business decision at the time for my brother because, he actually went through some hardships. He had 3 floods in his academy in 1 year, and literally lost his mats twice, and was broke, and so he actually volunteered himself to remove himself from the team. And Hoyler was like, no, you don't have to do that. I was like, no, I don't feel proper and stuff like that, just the honorable way, right? And and that's the thing, martial arts is about honor, respect. It's the 7, the 7 virtues of Bushido, and as I get older, I don't know, laughs, but you do understand that aspect a little bit more. Because listen, I was an avid competitor, into the competition, still am technically. I loved competing. But as a teacher, it's my job as a professor to teach the art of jiu-jitsu, to make sure that everybody understands the art and everything that encompasses it. Competition is great. Don't get me wrong. It's not a knock, because some people are like, oh, competition is everything and everything else is secondary. And I'm like, listen, I think the art of jiu-jitsu should be primary and competition is secondary. Now, secondary, what do I mean by that is that every day should be following the philosophies of jiu-jitsu and following all those aspects, and the competition, because eventually one day the competition will stop. You will not be able to compete anymore. Injuries, life, family. That's what happened to me. I was competing right up till 2003 and, got married, had kids, had to build an academy, and all competition had to take basically a back seat. And actually I came back to start competing in 2010. And actually, like, it's funny, someone asked me to write up my resume, and actually I'm pretty proud of my post retirement, well, not post retirement, my second wind, my second wind record, right? Because actually, like, when I was writing it down, I was like, man, I competed a lot and I did well, but like I said, like, and it's true, because you work so hard for those competitions, you get those medals, and then eventually you throw those medals in a drawer, and it's just back to normal, right? And I find actually even now as I get older, like, I get such a high, and then when the competition's over, it's like, oh man, it's like, okay, well, I guess I have to look forward to the next one, right? And I think that's what keeps everyone driving, right? But the self-defense stuff, I was a bouncer for 15 years. I worked in a lot of crazy clubs and stuff, and the self-defense aspect of jiu-jitsu, the competitive aspect helped me a lot. The self-defense stuff really helped me too, and this is why I kind of really stress to even those who compete, just practice the self-defense. It could save your life one day, right? And then again, because there's always this divide, self-defense and sport, and people say pick a side. I'm like, no, man, if anything, we should learn it all. Like, I'm very fortunate, and again, no knock on any other instructor, I'm very fortunate to have an instructor like Hoyler Gracie, because Hoyler Gracie was one of the best pound for pound Gracies, in the competitive circuit, like in the BJJ world, aside from obviously from his brothers, for his weight class, right? And obviously, like, you have Hunter Gracie and Kron and stuff like that as well. But for Hoyler, he was the guy who paved the way, and 4 world championships, 3 Abu Dhabis, and then he competed MMA, and then now, like, obviously him being more older and stuff like that, trying to really push the aspect of the self-defense, which sometimes it's overlooked. And that's sort of the tradition, and I know people hate that word tradition, but some of these traditions are important, because these are the things that, someone who walks into an academy is not going to walk into be a world champion. That's a very small percentage. But, again, most people coming in there, to defend themselves. I had a girl walk in because she was attacked by her husband. She was attacked by her own husband, choked out unconscious. And, I taught her a private lesson with myself and my wife, helping her out. And, just seeing the look on her face, the tears in her eyes, saying thank you so much, she didn't have to walk in fear anymore. And, I actually eventually got her blue belt, and, still trains to this day, obviously not now with everything going on, but, it completely changed her life. That's just one of 100, 200, success stories that I can talk about. But, and she even competed as well. And she said, man, I that really gave me confidence. And, like, I'm a firm believer that we should all do it all, right? Try and compete once, learn to protect yourself, do the knife defense, the stick, the gun, all those things that, sometimes, people overlook or say, it'll never happen, and, I can be a broken record when it comes to that stuff. But again, for me, I tell everybody, I compete, I do the self-defense because I was a bouncer, I love it all. Right. And, I believe that, for jiu-jitsu to be successful, for schools to be really successful, they should have that as a proper curriculum. And curriculum is a dirty word these days, but I firmly believe that everyone should have that kind of a curriculum, so that the beginners are walking in and they're learning the most basic stuff. I've seen people who don't even know break falls, and like, you're trained jiu-jitsu and you don't know how to do break falls, you don't even know how to roll. Oof, you don't even know how to shrimp properly. Aye. And I've had people coming in from different, from different academies from all over the world. I had a brown belt one time, couldn't shrimp properly. I was like, I was doing this. I was like, oh no. I don't know, maybe it wasn't a real brown belt. It could have been a bullshit.
Hold on, was that when Aaron visited recently?
No. Fuck you guys.
No, bro. He shrimps awesome, bro. He shrimps awesome. He's visited a few times, so no, he's good. But but in all honesty, that we all have to do our jobs as instructors to make sure that we're not giving only the candy. We have to give the fruits, the vegetables, the stuff that people unfortunately don't want but need. And eventually, like, again, you purple belt, brown belt, want to compete. Absolutely. My academy, I take a two-sided approach. I have a basic fundamentals program, and then I have what's called an Apex program, which is like my intermediate advanced program, which, fundamentally, the fundamentals program is exactly that. Fundamentals of jiu-jitsu, are you gonna learn ground stuff? Are you gonna learn submissions? Are you gonna learn sports stuff? Absolutely. But you're gonna learn self-defense, someone trying to punch you in the guard, someone trying to headlock you and stuff like that. My Apex program is more competition oriented, which people love. Why? When the majority of people want to learn more of the cooler stuff, and hey, I want to do this crazy thing to this position, to that, and 18 moves and stuff. I'm exaggerating, but but that's exactly what people want. But you have to grow into jiu-jitsu, and I think that's our success. That's why we have 300 students in our academy, and we have people who enjoy. I have some people who have never competed a day in their life and became a black belt. I mean, that's not true. Most of the guys who are black belts in my academy or high level belts have competed, and I encourage it, but I don't push it. And why? Because I tell. Actually, this is the first time I tell the story. I actually softened my stance towards competition when my son started competing, and my view towards that was I wanted my son, when he was born, to be a world champion. I want him to be I want him to follow my footsteps, compete, train, maybe fight UFC, which if my wife sees this,
fight
murder me with a pillow. And she's tried unsuccessfully. But anyways, my son's first competition got absolutely throttled badly. And and I won't hide it. I bawled. I cried my eyes out. And my own son came up to me and hugged me and says, "Daddy, it's okay. I'm fine." Now I was like, I felt bad because I felt like I fed him to the wolves. But but it was his innocence shattered, and it was a necessity because he needed to grow up. And unfortunately, we as instructors, but only me, an instructor as a parent, I had to kind of unfortunately do that because I wanted him to see with his own eyes and respect that part, and I never forced it, and there's times where he's competed on his own and he said, "Dad, I want to compete." Perfect, never forced him that way. But I've made it very clear, you're training the academy, whether you like it or not, 3 times a week, and no ifs, ands, or buts. That's basically for your mental and physical well-being. And even now, like, I can compete. I go, "Well, kid, you're gonna have to train hard. You're gonna have to get in shape and stuff." He's like, "Okay, no problem," But never force it, And then my stance in general as an instructor and professor softened a bit. Now, was that a good thing? You know what? To be honest with you, it was and it wasn't, because I never wanted to push people to compete, but I felt that whomever was sitting on the fence, I wouldn't push him one way or the other. But I told him, like, look, I'm going to put the onus on you. If you want to compete, then I expect you to be in the academy and live in the academy. And the problem is that, and I think everyone will agree, you'll have those people who are, all talk, no action. They say, oh yeah, I want to compete, I want to be the best. And I can tell you 50 stories from my days where I've had people say that, I want to compete, be a world champion. And, they're not coming in doing the comp classes. They're not staying till 11 o'clock. They're not doing the Sunday classes. They're not doing the extra stuff. They're not dieting. They're not.
Whoa. Why are you ripping
We're
off?
talking about Mike? We're talking about Mike?
Mike?
One of these 50 stories, 49 in a row.
No. You're one of the dozen success stories. So
Thank you.
I know I'm being Mr. PC here, but no, Mike, you can eat Haagen-Dazs until you're blue in the face, and I don't think you'd ever have to worry about your weight and stuff in a competition. I don't know.
I did that spotted earlier, actually. It felt great. You touched on a lot of things, but one thing I wanted to ask you is you've had a lot of experience. Like you've had several academies, and your brother Sil, he started one of the, I would say, the OG academies, I would say, in Ontario, and that was Grappling Arts Academy. Take us through. I want to get the history perspective of from Grappling Arts Academy to where you're at in 2020. And don't worry, we got all night, because it's a big evolution of where you started to where you are now. And one thing's for sure, I don't want to speak for you, but it's definitely not an overnight success story.
No. Well, listen, Grappling Arts Academy started in my parents' basement. And after a couple of times hitting one of the main beams one too many times, and my dad's like, okay, out. Went into his backyard and then basically ripped up the grass. And my dad's like, out, find a place. And so my brother.
In Anglais or Francais?
No, in English. He's like, out. You're ripping up my house. So, and it's funny when you're having like 15, 20 people showing up and training your basement and backyard. I think it was starting to annoy my dad, and I think my mom really approved too much after. People are trekking inside of our house all the time. I mean, everyone was really cool and friendly though, but that's when basically the birth of Grappling Arts Academy started, and that started in 1993 or 1994. It's vague because we were training in our house 1992, 1993, and stuff like that, on and off for like a year and something. And then 1994 we opened up on Ashbridge Circle in Woodbridge, actually not far from where I currently am right now, literally half a kilometer. And it was a ground floor, 2,400 square feet, and we had people coming from all over the place because once UFC hit, it was just. Can we get like any deal, maybe after the podcast, we get the exact location, we'll put a picture up. Like this is the, oh yeah. But sorry, go on. I just wanted to No, that's good. No. I probably have even photos. If you creep on my Facebook, you'll probably find some old photos from there. So, yeah, and probably ones that I probably gonna because I want to see those photos, like horrific looking ones. Like I had like the Backstreet Boys salad bowl haircut stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I should use that picture.
Oh my god. I have one from.
We need that one.
I have one from like the first Machado seminar in Montreal, and where I have the salad bowl haircut.
Oh, I think I've seen that picture. Okay, that's the one.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I mean, I laugh now. I'm not afraid of it, but it was bad. And that's where I think the camera just basically said, okay, no more hair for you, buddy. So, but anyways.
Now I have a favor in related to that. Can you convince Aaron just to give up already? Just go bald. You wear it well. Wearing a hat right now. Aaron, do you have a full mop of hair? Full mop of hair?
No, I got an island thing going on. Like it's all wacky and it's coming off. I shave it now, but whatever. I'm not like to the razor yet. I'm not there yet.
Well, you get to this point here. I got like the Jean-Luc Picard thing going on. So like what happens? It starts to grow like this. So I have to. Because if I don't, it looks just like eerily scary, and like it's like a patch of grass. I don't know. That's the years. That's years of doing this, all the grinding on the mat. I think I like permanent mat burn in some areas, right?
Mine's from actually managing Mike, so that's where I got mine from.
That's why I have to wear the full like headgear and so. And I wouldn't recommend that.
Anyways. To people that know me, I am the direct cause of their male pattern baldness.
I would. Well, you're probably partly responsible for this too, so that's okay. You know, we all learn. But anyways, going back to grappling arts, grappling arts was a very special place. At that time, there was, judo guys, wrestling guys. We had guys from all over the place coming to train. And at that time, there were two main schools. There was our school, Grappling Arts Academy, and then there was a Samurai Club. And the Samurai Club was run by a gentleman named Moroney, an Israeli fella, judo background, and had some tough guys, and we had tough guys. And it was almost like the Cold War, back in those days. The 90s was the Cold War of the grappling world, the jiu-jitsu world. And we had like such amazing guys in our academy, like I can name a whole bunch. I got guys like Claude Patrick, Mark Bochek. We had Spider Rob DiCenzo. We had Kareem El Said. That's just to name a few. We still have tons more guys, that were like, we had a murderer's row of guys in there that every night was no easy rolls. We were always trying to murder and kill each other every day. It was like, like the Wild West. And in those days, we were training like neck cranks, heel hooks, toe holds, knee bars, like stuff that today, like, people cringe and, oh, you're doing a Danaher, leg lock. Ooh, don't do that, right? Back in the other days, again, in the old days, that stuff was just commonplace. But I mean, it was done within control as well. Like we were always very, very, watchful and stuff. Only the high level guys did that. But in the peak, like we were growing our numbers, but it was a struggle. But even though with our popularity, we still had, struggles and stuff. And I think at the peak we had 250 students late 1999, like mid 1999 was 250 students and it was strictly jiu-jitsu. So like that was like unheard of. And
especially
like I said,
1999 as well. Like
I
haven't heard like jiu-jitsu isn't what it is today, like 20 years ago, if you really think back.
And like I remember the day where we hit 250 people. I was like, the biggest class I ever taught was a class 1999. I remember it like it was a Wednesday night. I taught 48 people on the mat. That was a regular class. It was a Wednesday night, 7 o'clock class, 48 people. And I remember because, and I tell this story all the time, I remember we had everybody sitting down, and I sat and I paused for about maybe about a good 2 or 3 minutes. And then one of the guys was, hey, Danny, what are you doing? I go, I'm looking at this. Why? Because I have a feeling I'm not going to see this again for a long time. I don't know why. Something was telling me something was up. But I remember watching everybody in that room, and I took a picture. And again, obviously that wasn't a digital age. I have a picture lying around somewhere, but it was packed. Every square inch of that mat was full, and crazy rolls. We would roll till sometimes 1 a.m. We would have like rounds up on going 10-minute rounds, and we would be going like sometimes 20 rounds in a night. So that's we're going on 3.5 hours of rolling.
So what you're saying, Grappling Arts Academy invented Pohada every day.
It was the epitome of Pohada every day. You speak to any guy, like you speak to any of the guys that were training those days, they can tell you that the training was intense, and there were guys that were fucking crazy intense, and they were like spazzing out. Like tempers flaring and stuff. But my brother and I were like the glue that stuck together. Sometimes I was the enforcer. I was known as the enforcer. My brother's the good guy. I was the bad guy. So when people got out of line, I was the guy who basically had to straighten people out, which wasn't really I wasn't really the popular guy. So when I started my own academy in 2000, I didn't keep many of those guys who I adjusted their necks, if you want to call it that.
Can you give us one story of, we'll leave the names out to protect the innocent. Now, it was the Wild West. Has there been people coming in like, oh, I work out at a gym. I train UFC. My name's Aaron Gall. Would they come in and would they try to test you? Try to test maybe your brother? Because I don't know, for those who haven't met Sil, you know, he's a smaller guy. He's very unassuming, but he'll mess you up if he needs to or wants to or has to.
Yeah. Back in those days, like, again, it was still like the days of the Gracie challenge. So you had people coming in, you know, and in our neighborhood, we had a kickboxing school. I won't say anymore, but it was a kickboxing school, and they were known for, you know, going out and challenging people. And we did have one person from their school. Now, I don't think it was anyone. It was direct. I think it was just someone wanted to test it out. So it wasn't uncommon to have someone come in and just, you know, pose as someone to want to try out class, and then in the middle of class say, I don't think what you do is believable. I want to fight you. And my brother was like, okay, you know, and then like in the middle of the class, we're beating the crap out of a poor guy, you know, like beating the snot out of him. And the thing is, a lot of times they would go after they would go for my brother because he was small. They would never come after me because I'm the big guy, you know. I'm walking around, you know, like at that time, you know, 215, 220, you know, and but I mean, that's one of maybe, you know, 20 or 30 stories that we had, you know, like that one was, we had a guy come in. This is the most funniest story. We had a guy come in saying he never trained before, and then you see his gi and his collar is just tattered, like the gi was just ripped to shreds. And then he has his white belt that's like brand new, and we're laughing because it's like, oh my God, this guy's so full of BS, right? And so my brother's like, you sure you never trained? He goes, no, never trained. And you can see his ear. No, I've never trained, with his ears sticking out. So we're like, okay, we're looking at him like, okay, he's a judo guy. And, you know, do our, you know, warm up, and we do the class. And it's okay, time to roll. And the guy goes, this guy came straight to me. And my brother, you know, in those days, you know, I would look at my brother, he'd give me the nod, you know, that. And it's like, okay, it's Pohada time. It's go time. And that guy got annihilated. I smashed this poor guy. I felt so bad, like, you know, like some really nasty stuff. And I think I busted that guy's rib. I popped his rib, and I said, I thought you wanted to test yourself. Let's go. A little pop rib's gonna stop you and stuff. So this poor guy, I think, rolled 3.5 or 4 rounds. You know, and that's like 10 minutes left, so almost 40 minutes with a popped rib. And he went outside and threw up, and he puked everywhere, you know. So anyway, that was great. Great PR, guys coming in to check out class, and there's a guy running out the door, you know, puking his guts out. But I mean, that was so common. You know, we had, you know, I think one of the most infamous challenge matches we ever had actually was at a demonstration we did at a sports fair. We did a sports fair in Woodbridge. It was outside a trampoline club. And we had 2 guys from a local Taekwondo club watching us and sort of giggling and laughing on the side. And my brother, seeing these guys sort of like making a mockery, my brother invites them on the mat. These are like, you know, 3rd, 4th degree black belts. And they were like, yeah, you know, we want to. Can we try it out? Sure, no problem, you know. So my brother's, you know, practicing with them a little bit and stuff, and oh, cool. And so they, you know, so one of them, and we were waiting for it. It's like, okay, wait for it. Hey, can we try your Taekwondo against your Jiu-Jitsu? And my brother's like, sure. So my brother's getting ready, and the guys are like, oh, no, we don't want to do it against you. We want to do it against one of your students. And they're like, oh, who do you want to do it against? And they point over to me. We want to fight that guy wearing the purple belts. And I was a purple at the time, and my brother's like, hey, they want to fight you, no holds barred. I'm like, all right, let's do it. You know, and that was kind of like the, you know, nonchalant way in those days. And there was like 400-500 people watching. It was just insane. Everybody was watching. And so, you know, we're on mats on the floor, on the ground. It was like July. It's freaking hot as hell and stuff. And the first guy, you know, goes for a kick. I grab him, boom, on the ground, mount him, and turns around, choke him. There's like 30 seconds. Everyone's clapping and stuff. And then the second guy goes in, and then it's funny enough, he grabs me, So he grabs onto my gi, looks at my brother, and goes, "What do I do next?" And what people don't know is that what we didn't know is his instructor, the master instructor, was actually on the sidelines watching. He didn't know that they were going on the mats challenging us, and obviously that was not good business for him, because then I took that guy down and armbarred him or something like that. Like both guys were like a minute 15 seconds, all together. And that poor guy basically, he was starting to point the finger at him, curse at them, and the guy basically took his stand and left. And it's funny because the guy actually, one of the second guy who I fought came into my academy a couple of years later and said, "Hey man, I want to come and train." I'm like, "Hey, cool." And he actually told the story. He goes, "Hey, do you know who I am? I'm the guy I challenged him and he kicked the shit out of me in front of 500 people." So that was a cool story. So, but that was like the 90s. It was just absolutely crazy, and they were great times. I have no regrets. We did some crazy training, and I loved it. And again, those are the good old days. And some people laugh because oh yeah, the good old days. That's 2015. That's you're like an 8th generation jiu-jitsu guy. You're very fortunate because you have black belts at your disposal. And in our days, we had to travel to Brazil, California, New York, wherever there was a seminar. If there was a seminar in the area, we would go and train because we had no access to any black belts. And the problem is that a lot of the guys who wanted to make you part of a team, and in those days they were asking for crazy money, which we couldn't afford, and not because we didn't want to pay, it's just that we just couldn't afford it,
Mm-hmm.
And so unfortunately it was a tough hill to climb, but we are here because of a lot of the stuff that my brother did. Even the guy, and I have to give credit to guys like even Moroney and the guys that he had, because he had guys like Carlos Newton, he had guys like Omar Salvosa, Joel Gerson, tons of other guys, and again, these are all people who I know and they're still around to this day, right? Carlos is a lovable guy. I love him to death. Omar, I consider him a very close personal friend, especially in the martial arts, huge respect to him, right? I know Joel Gerson, he just recently got his black belt not long ago, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, great for him, like these are the things that, grow a community and make it strong. And this also, we need a healthy community because we all need each other for competition. And if it's healthy competition, because back in those days, it was healthy competition, but it was very tense, because when we went to tournaments, Samurai Club would bring 100 people. We would bring 35. And then we would win 26, 27 medals, and they would win, 39, 40 medals. Right. So, we won the most medals. I go, well, we won the highest percentage of medals. We brought 35 people, but we had 27 people, get medals, so, which was very impressive. So that was sort of like our little jab at each other. And it was friendly, but it was still pretty intense in those days. And I think that really helped. Competition is healthy. And I try to really encourage everybody to compete. I love competing, but I'll never put a gun to my student's head to force them to compete. But, I tell them, if you want to compete, do it right, put the time and effort in, and we have, great resources in our academy. Obviously guys like Mike, guys like Maddie, guys like, Kev, and we have a bunch of other great guys. Obviously, we have, Professor Tony, obviously years of experience and stuff, and obviously he's the godfather of the OJA, scene, Actually, a lot of people don't know, I was actually, before Tony, I was actually on the OJA board. I was the guy who basically took the lumps. I took the lumps so bad in those days. I was scapegoat number one, So if OJ wasn't doing anything right, it was like, oh, Danny this, Danny that. I'm like, hey guys, I'm doing whatever. I'm doing the best I can. But obviously when Tony, Omar, and Gringo got involved, it really pushed things in the right direction. So hey, it's stepping stones.
Covered a lot there. Take us from 1999 to where you're at right now with your academy. So Grappling Arts 99, the peak, up until here we are today in the middle of COVID 2020.
So yeah, 99, it was a heyday. 2000, my brother, unfortunately, was involved. He was involved in a pretty nasty, divorce and child custody and stuff like that. And his ex-wife moved to Montreal. So, when you have kids, obviously they're going to take priority. And at the time, I didn't understand that, but obviously having kids, you do. And he moved to Montreal, and basically at the time he had some guys helping him out here, and just everything fell apart. Grappling arts fell apart, and then eventually basically wound up closing. And then right after that, I basically opened up Bravado Jiu-Jitsu and started to rebuild. From 250 students right down to, I think I had 35 students when I started, which was just bleak in comparison. But then built it and started to build a core. But, I was sort of like, man, I don't want it to be that big right away. I sort of like was, like the once bitten, twice shy. It was too big for, I felt it was too big for me to handle. If I had my brother with me, no problem, because it was both of us running it. So we were actually like a really good team, to run that place. But then we started to slowly, the first academy, I have pictures like we had a brick wall. It was like gangster in there, man. It was hilarious. It looked like we were doing like back alley fighting and stuff in there. And, it was small, 800 square foot place. It was tiny compared to grappling arts in its heyday, was just under 4,000 square feet. So, it was a huge contrast. And then we started to build our numbers up, 35, then we, mid 2000s, we got into 65, 70 students. And 2010, I broke the 100 mark and stuff, and then started to get more into it. Got married and I got married, I had kids and stuff like that. And I started to really build something. And then we started to, Tony got more involved, started to teach more. He was helping with Muay Thai classes, throughout the 2000s. Then started getting more into the Jiu-Jitsu and stuff. And then we started to really, build. And then we started to get to the 150, 200 mark, just around 2015, about 155, 160 students. And only 2016, that's when things went like that, And actually, as of December 31st, we had 302 students, and we were growing even more. So obviously with COVID hitting, we've probably lost 50, 60 students easily, and that's being conservative. I know some schools have lost 100 students the first week, but we've got a great bunch of people in our academy. But again, it's the way it's structured. The way we structure it, it's a very professionally run academy. We have, full-time staff. I got, Professor Andrew, who's, he's a full-time instructor there. I have, obviously other guys there, other instructors, other black belts that are there to teach and volunteer as well. And then I have my wife, who's the main administrator there. So, and it's funny because I sit here and say, man, I wish I could have done this 10 years ago. But in reality, I don't think I would have been able to handle 300 students 10 years ago. I don't think I would have been, mentally, or had the maturity as a teacher to handle that many students. But I think, I think some people can handle, some people can't, so I'm a firm believer that, things happen for a reason at the right time. And, a lot of learning lessons, back in those days of grappling arts, and, relationships soured. I lost relationships with some of the students in the academy. They went out to start, their own academies and, shit talking and all that stuff, which, that's long since passed. But, I've always said that I'm going to open my own academy and I'm going to be a staple hold in my community, since then. It was actually more of a promise I made for myself, my brother, and the grappling arts name, to reopen and keep, the last name Moroney, involved in the Toronto scene for jiu-jitsu. Now, again, like I said, am I a powerhouse competition team? No, not at all. Do I want it to be? Yes, I'm actually, this year, actually, I started talking a lot to all the guys about pushing the competition and making the competition more of a priority now, and I started to really, stress my words more with my students, saying, hey, look, you want like competing? Okay, well let's all train. Let's do this, guys. I want to compete as well, and I want everyone to compete with me as well. And again, it's not easy. It's tough when you have a bunch of savages in the room, and different personalities and mindsets and expectations. It's tough to control that room. And you can look at any academy. I don't care, any academy in the world for jiu-jitsu, and you're gonna have the exact same things that happen. So you're gonna have people come and go. That's just a fact of life. And you know what? I'm actually today I'm good with it. If you would have talked to me 10 years ago, I would have lost my shit on that person. Saying, oh, that person is a piece of crap. They left the academy, they left the team, they left the team members. But again, like I said, even today, like, you know what, if they're not happy here, no problem, man. There's probably an academy for you, or there's going to be that environment that suits you better. And even at the same time, I have some of my guys, who do train with some of my good close friends, and they ask me, is it okay if I get some extra training here? Yeah, no problem. Because you know what, sometimes we don't have, the assets in the academy to push that person, and again, I've even lost a few students to other academies because they're looking more towards being, they want to become a world champion. No problem. I can't facilitate you. Hey man, it's all good. You can go there if that's what you want, right? So, like even I myself as a jiu-jitsu practitioner and a professor has really grown up and matured. And you know what? I guess that's just age, experience. And I think I'm just too old to deal with that crap anymore, So, it's great that, in this day and age that, the scene is, someone asked me, is the scene is what you expected? I'm like, yeah, I'm happy the way the scene is, because there's some good jiu-jitsu guys out there that are doing that are making some waves, and even like now you go to Worlds or World Masters and you see a ton of Canadians there. And the great thing about it is that you have a lot of Canadians cheering for other Canadians, so they don't even care about the teams. There's a lot of times I'm cheering from guys from other teams and stuff. And I'm like, hey, why are you cheering for them for? They're not wearing your patch. I'm like, he's a Canadian. He's a friend of mine. I want him to win. Obviously, if he's fighting a teammate of mine, I'm obviously going to be a little more quiet about it. Obviously, I don't get in trouble. But at the same time, it's great to see, people going in there and doing great. Patricia Vandermeer actually was fighting in I think semis or something like that. And there was no one coaching, and I'm freaking barking like a dog, And I felt someone beside me, and I look, oh my God, that's Robert Drysdale. I go, Professor, it's all yours. Like, no, keep going. You're doing great. I'm like, you kill your voice. I'm like, okay, no problem. I goes, you're doing good, man. I'm here for support, which was really cool. And he asked, he looked at my shirt. He goes, how do you know Patricia? I go, well, she's in the city, Ontario scene like me. We're from Ontario, Canada. I was like, oh, cool, okay. It's great to see that you're cheering for your own countryman, right? So, or countrywoman, whatever. Sorry, I got to be right there. Trudeau will get pissed off. So I'm sorry.
We are all one. We are all one.
I just don't want to get arrested. No kidding. But yeah,
no, you're good.
But
so
go ahead.
Like you said, like what do you think it was that like there was a certain point where jiu-jitsu just kind of took off? And I can't really even you probably know a little bit more than I do. But it was like there was a pinpoint year where like jiu-jitsu just started exploding in Ontario, especially. What do you think it was? Was it just more social media aspect, people, more material available, more schools available, or was it just kind of a combination of everything?
Well, actually, this, a lot of people don't know this, and I'm speaking from my eyes and my memory. There are actually 4 times that jiu-jitsu did this, and it's just because it did this.
I think every martial art really does that too.
Yeah. So like obviously in the 93, 94. I mean, like my brother's academy was like packed. I mean, like literally people were falling out the door. I mean, that's like we just couldn't keep the people in, and we had people driving from Bowmanville, people driving from Windsor come and train with us,
Wow.
which was like crazy. Windsor, people were coming they were spending 3 days in a row to train with us, and then we're going back to Windsor, which was like, that's crazy. That's nuts, you know. People from Owen Sound, Barrie, Aurelia, one of my close friends, one of our black belts, you know, Rob Velman, he's from Guelph, and he would travel from Guelph 4 times a week. He would be training all the time with us, right? So, you know, we had a lot of people traveling to come out and train with us. So, you know, like, and so that time, and then I'd say like, you know, 98, 99, that's when it did a big explosion. And then what happened was that we started to get a bit of a lull. It happened 2000, 2001, you know, all the stuff, you know, 9/11 and stuff like that happened. And so I think a lot of that kind of just dampened things, travel and stuff. So, you know, so I think that really kind of just stagnated a little bit. And then I noticed that, you know, once we started like 2005, 2006, we started our tournaments. And then I found when it really took off was around 2009. I think it really just took off. And that's actually, that was actually tied in when guys like George Brito, who came in and helped us out, helped set up stuff along with Tony and guys like Gringo and stuff like that. Like we just got our act together, got more organized. When we started doing pre-registration and tournaments, that's when things did this. When it was like the old days where we didn't do pre-registration. You came in at 7 o'clock in the morning and registered, and then like, you know, you either fought at 9:05 or at 6:05 p.m. that night.
Oh, I remember. That was my first tournament, Bravado. I remember.
Yeah. So it was like, and even in those days, you know, like I remember like I was going on the mats, reffing a mat and doing like, you know, 4 divisions, you know, and I'm intermixing them, and it's like people are like, wow, this mat is not going down. I'm like, no, because I got to keep this mat going, right? And so, but it was like that was the only way we knew it. And then when guys like George came in and started helping us out, which I have to give him, like you have to give him credit, you know. And that's again, I'm a firm believer in giving credit where credit's due. I think a lot of people don't give those people credit, you know. And I have to give Professor George Brito credit for that, because he's the one who came in. And yeah, you know, because again, he was from Brazil, and you know they knew how they organized tournaments and stuff. And when I went to a lot of the tournaments, the IBGF tournaments, I was like, wow, these guys got their act together. But even then, those guys back in the days, you know, like I think early 2000s, you know, it was the same, like, you know, it was a shit show. Like, you know, same thing, you know, registering at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I remember Rodrigo was telling me he fought 3:30 in the morning one time. It was at Pan Am's in Florida. 3:30 in the morning. I was like, that's insane. Holy cow. You know, I'm like, whoa, you know.
Rodrigo go, God damn!
Yeah, God damn. Hell yeah. Ain't doing that stuff again. I remember Rod was so pissed. Like, man, I was like there all day. I got half the division.
Rodrigo, if you're listening to this.
Yeah. Love you, Rod. And yeah, and I think Rod said he had like a few people drop out, and he was pissed because like, man, he was waiting for these guys to fight, and there'd be no shows, and then wait longer and longer. It's like,
well, who the hell wants to compete at 3:30 in the morning?
Like, I mean, like, listen, and again, no disrespect to you know, one of the biggest tournaments in those days, the early 2000s, was the Jocelyn's tournament, you know. But as it got bigger, it was just too much of a monster to freaking handle, and it's exactly what happened, right? You know, guys were fighting at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, you know, so a lot of people were getting upset about that, and it's not their fault. It's just the way it was structured. And, you know, a lot of the guys were like, hey guys, we got to change it to this. And then you know, for, I think 2 years, I think they did it 2 more years after that. And I think it hurt them, you know, because I think that 1 year they really were like, it was too much for them, you know. They were like, oh, you have to go fight in this auditorium, and, you know, you have to go fight over here. So they were fighting like in 3 different areas. And so there was guys were getting DQ, and guys, and obviously, you know, you're having like 12, 14 referees, and obviously you're not getting, that many experienced referees. So there were a lot of blunders, screwed up calls and stuff like that. So it really hurt their reputation, and it's not their fault. It's just, again, they're just a victim of their own success sometimes, right? And so, I remember, you know, when Tony and I were starting our tournament, like, man, I don't want to be a victim of that either, right? And it was funny because, like, I'm just happy if I have 200 people, that'd be a great day, you know. In our first tournament, I think we had 100 and 170 people, which, you know, like we hear, you know, now you laugh. That's one division for crying out loud, you know. That's like middleweight white belt, you know. That's 170 people in that division, you know. But like I'm exaggerating, obviously, but today, like, you know, like our tournament, like last year's tournament, we had like 560 competitors or something like that, you know, which is great. And and to be honest with you, we barely promoted it. We just pushed it as we normally do, social media. But everybody knows September. Oh, it's a GTA Classic. Everybody knows that, right? That's when you know that's in the schedule. So, you know, and again, like, could we have 1,000 competitors? For sure, absolutely. Obviously not this year. I doubt it. But you know, I know next year for sure. I think we're gonna have, you know, back to normal. And I think a lot of people are gonna feel the same way I think everybody else will feel. This anxiousness and, you know, and to basically, you know, this whole quarantine, they're going to keep it in the rearview mirror. And I think we're just going to be full steam ahead. I think everyone's going to be, you know, like I'm actually like, I want to compete more now because of this, you know, because I feel that, you know, this being taken away from us for so long, for 3 months, and this is an eternity for certain people. You're going to see a lot of people who are going to be, you know, I don't want to say defiant, but, you know, more, like, I think more focused than ever, you know, and I'm excited about that. So, but obviously this has really crippled a lot of schools, you know, and like I said, my success with having this many students has been a very good blessing for me. I've been able to weather the quarantine, you know, and again, like my own brother couldn't, you know, but, you know, like I said, not because he had no money, it's just because he wasn't able to, you know, shelter himself properly. As of many other businesses. And in the martial arts industry, guys, you know, like if you have a lease and you have, you know, again, if you're not a black belt in business, and it's a terrible word to say, but you have to wear both hats. You know, I wear the hat of a martial artist, I wear the hat of a businessman, and as disgusting or as grotesque as that sounds, if you don't have the business hat, the martial arts hat cannot survive. If you don't have the martial arts hat, the businessman can't survive either. Because again, the quality, quantity, you know, those things don't work. And I had to make a lot of sacrifices, you know, compared to what I was in 2000 to now. You know, I'm a much better teacher. I'm more structured, more organized. It's a benefit for everybody. You know, would I like to have 50 people and just smash and kill each other? For sure. But you know what? It's better to have 300 students and then have those 10%, 15% who are the competitors than I have my 35, you know, to 50 people who just want to kill and murder each other every day. I mean, obviously, in a good way, obviously. But then I have those people. And that's actually something that I learned throughout the years through, you know, some of my business consultants and stuff like that, which basically are the ones responsible for where my academy is today. You know, and I have to give them props. You know, like the first guy is Pat Cooligan, and Pat Cooligan, black belt from Renzo Gracie, and actually I'm the one. And I have to kind of throw this in here. I'm actually the one who introduced Pat Cooligan to Renzo Gracie. Actually, he's Renzo Gracie because of me. You know, and you know, just because I just, you know, say, hey man, come on in, come hang out with us. He actually has a picture in his academy of us having dinner with Renzo at a Japanese sushi bar, and there's actually a picture of us all, you know, toasting and stuff, which is really cool. So, you know, there's a really good connection there. So, you know, and Pat I hold really dear, and he's really helped me out. And then obviously there's Nick Castiglia, who's my consultant today, and Nick is the guy who's instrumental in helping me, you know, keeping, you know, the ship, you know, and always in the right course, you know. And again, just good, honest, ethical business practices, you know, just being, you know, a good instructor, you know, caring for people, and just, you know, just doing the right business decisions. The problem is there's a lot of guys out there who do poor decisions and wind up, you know, like I said, a lot of people who have closed their schools is unfortunately because of either poor business decisions or just lack of good business understanding. And that's not a slight on them. I feel bad. There's people who I know have had their schools closed, and, you know, like, and they're like, man, like, you know, again, Rodrigo Mandruka, he had to close the school in San Diego, you know. Mm-hmm. Damn shame. That guy's a world champion, amazing guy. and he had to close the school. You know, and a few other people that I know too. You know, so it sucks, guys. You know, and I hope, you know, when all this is, you know, said and done, you know, those guys can reopen their academies and obviously, you know, go back to normal. You know, because even for me, when I reopen my academy, it's not going to be the same, but because I've, you know, obviously got a good student base and, you know, good financial mindset, you know, I'm able to weather the storm and, you know, weather the next 6 months, because that's the reality of it. You know, you can survive the 3 months, you know, shutdown, but can you survive the next 6 months where you're going to have to do social distancing and not do all the crazy training that we want to do, and the restrictions, you know, having half the capacity in your school? That means we have to do twice the amount of classes. And there's some guys out there who have told me flat out, you know, I'm going to close my school because I just can't do that. You know, I don't have to fight me anymore. So, you know, for me, I'm so passionate about it that I'll never close my doors ever. You know, I'll die doing this. You know, and that's something I can proudly say. You know, some people say, like, you know, someone asked me that a couple of months ago. You know, can you map out your life? And I'm like, yeah, I can map out my life. He goes, well, can you just define your life? He goes, yeah, my life is jiu-jitsu. You know, my life from now till my dying day, the day I basically stop breathing, is all about jiu-jitsu. Is about being a jiu-jitsu professor, and that would be my legacy. It's forever cemented in history. So it's profound when you think it like that, you know, and because actually when Nate asked it to me like that, I was like, oh my God, it really hit me. I'm like, wow, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, you know? And you know, there's some people who say that they'll do that and then they stop, quit, and they do something else. And you know what? That's their choice. Great. But for me, I know that I'm going to do jiu-jitsu, you know, in any form as I can until, you know, I'm not able to do it anymore. But even then, I'll still be the guy coming into the academy, you know, being a part of it, being on the mats, you know, like that stuff I enjoy. You know, I'm 44 now and been training for, you know, almost going on 30 years since I was 16. So 28, 29 years. I got a lot of mileage on me. So, you know, you hear a lot of guys out there who, and again, I laughed because I used to laugh at those guys, 40 years old, you're just old, you're complaining. And they're like, yeah, wait till you're 45 years old and you've been training for so long, and then you're going to complain about, you know, all your injuries, right? And so, you know, obviously the running joke is, okay, tell me what doesn't hurt. And that's just the truth, right? Like, oh yeah, okay, this left shoulder, okay, yeah, that's what doesn't hurt. Everything else hurts. So, you know, and like I said, I know a lot of black belts, bad necks, bad shoulders, bad hips, bad back, bad everything, you know, but they're still going on the mats and doing what they love. So that's basically, you know, that's what Dan Moroney is, you know, for life, I guess.
No, 100%. So when you mentioned it, because you were talking about like your next steps as well, like what do you think? And there's a lot unknown. I totally understand that. But like, if you had to wrap it up, like where it would be like, what do you think are the next steps, especially like for clubs in Ontario and even Canada, to really get back to I guess a normal, I guess you would call it.
Well,
Normal.
So, normal. Well, here's the thing.
On audio that I was doing air quotes.
Yeah.
Because, and the reason why I asked that is because I've like, again, like right now my work is out of placement. So I see the social streams, I see all this stuff, and it's just guys being defiant and saying, oh, well, I'm just going to open up the way I did before. And it's like, being in the health and fitness industry, I'm like, it doesn't work like that, dude, as much as I think you want to.
I mean, we all want to do that, right? Like we all want things to like, hey, let's just open up our gym and go back to what we were doing before. But like, unfortunately, like that's not the case. And, you know, like you were even before, a lot of small businesses, like they're suffering right now. And even just outside of martial arts and small gyms and boutique studios, like there's a lot of small businesses. What would you like to see, like for yourself, like for the future? And what are your plans to get out of this in the next like 6 months? Because we're all getting hit here. I'm getting hit here. Aaron's getting hit here. Aaron's bald head is getting extra hit here.
Well, so what I'm gonna say is gonna ruffle feathers, because I've seen stuff on social media where people are
ruffle away.
Ruffle, buddy.
I'm not gonna hold back. I've seen a lot of stuff on social media where like, oh fuck this shit. If I can't do social media, if I have to do social distancing, I'm not gonna train. Fuck this bullshit. I'm not gonna open. And I'm like, okay, you want to do that? That's fine. But if you're gonna be defiant, and then one day someone's gonna walk into your academy and they see 30 people rolling, and I'll speak from experience. Last Thursday, so not yesterday, last Thursday, I had someone from my neighboring unit call the police on us because they thought that people were training in the academy, which in fact, we were actually doing online Zoom classes. We only had 4 people in the whole building, and actually 3 people at one time. And so the cops came, so they came and they walked up and they're like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, well, we're doing online Zoom classes, It's like, how many people are in the building? I go, just 3 of us. That's it. We're under 5 people and stuff. He's like, oh, good. Thank God. We don't want to give you guys tickets and stuff. This is the last thing we want to do, because if there's 6 people get $850 tickets, not just one person. It's $850 a person. Yeah. So now imagine if you had 30 people in the room who said F this, and then the cops have to start giving out tickets. That's a lot of money. Now, because I asked yeah, exactly. And you must have tons of money to throw around.
I guess audio, I'm throwing $1 bills at
850 times.
So picking them up right after this podcast.
Yeah, no, and the cops were actually super cool, and actually they actually when they got the call, they actually had a lot of their guys, a lot of their fellow officers actually call them on the phone and say, don't give the jiu-jitsu guy a ticket. They're the good guys, right? But like, again, like when you're getting into that kind of stuff, when you're like being bold, like, oh, we're going to do it whether, we like it or not, listen, like, it's not going to help your reputation. And if you want to be a professional academy that, and again, a successful one, because listen, when I started off, I didn't care if I was going to make money or not, because for me it was a passion. But then I started to realize that one day I'm going to have to eventually retire. And then if I retire, like I'm going to need money, So if I don't make any money, I'm going to be broke and poor, And again, everyone misconcepts money with, like, oh, I'm ripping a student off. That's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. For people out there to charge, $70 a month, you're just actually hurting the industry as a whole, because people are now taking advantage of the value of your worth. And I'm not trying to be mean and nasty.
That's what you're doing at the end of it. Oh, sorry, there's a little feedback there. But you're providing a service for your gym. You're not just,
exactly.
Hey, you want to sign up? No, okay, just sign here. Just write down your credit card.
And that's the problem, is a lot of people don't realize, like, and again, like, yeah, I'm in an industry, I have to put food on the table and stuff like that. And again, you have to understand, martial arts was really frowned upon, in the 1970s and 80s. It was like, you're a vagabond, you were a bouncer, which is funny, I was a bouncer and I was a martial arts guy, which was sort of like the stigma. Oh, you must be a bouncer. I'm like, yeah, actually I am, because that's the only way I can make a living. But the martial arts industry started to become professionalized and became business oriented because it was for survival, So like, I can make this argument saying, well, jiu-jitsu is the best, so, everyone should be in my doors. Well, that's not true, because you see karate schools that have like 1,000 students, and it's, and you can make that. And again, I'm not saying that karate sucks. That's not what I'm saying. But people think that, well, jiu-jitsu is better. Well, jiu-jitsu is an amazing martial art. It is my preferred martial art. Some people will train in other martial arts, and which is fine. I have some close friends, karate black belts, kung fu black belts, judo black belts and stuff. And, and again, they're amazing, accomplished martial artists who I respect, I respect tremendously. Right. And so it's important that people realize that to survive in this day, you have to have good business sense. If you don't, you won't survive. You might as well just teach in your backyard, or teach in your basement, and that's fine. And again, like, like you had, Patrick Truell on, right? Who's teaching out of his house, which is great. You know what? And you know, and I think he's great for that. And I think he's actually going to do a lot of good for him, and he's going to do good for the jiu-jitsu community, right? Now, is that for everybody? No. You know what I mean? Like, would I do it in my own basement? No, it's just not for me, right? I don't know. But again, like, he's keeping it small and, you know, obviously confined, which is great. You know, do you want to have 300 students rolling through a basement throughout the week? I don't think that's a good idea, which I know he's not doing. But, you know,
You're also speaking from experience back in Montreal.
Yeah. but that's the important, like, and for me, that's why I really took a serious look about 5-6 years ago, you know, to really make my academy, because I had grandiose plans to make the academy better than what my brother's academy was in 1999. Because my brother's academy in Haiti had 250 students, 4,000 square feet, beautiful academy. And I wanted to, you know, one day surpass that. But, you know, like, again, I didn't think I had the confidence to do it. But then I reached out and found the right people. And where I am now, the academy that I have today is my legacy academy. That's what I call it. It's my legacy. It's something that, you know I could probably do better, but it's where everybody walked into the academy and did, whoa. You know, where I had my own teacher, Master Hoyler, walk in the academy and, like, stared around for about 5 minutes. And he looked at me and I go, Master, what do you think? He goes, don't change a thing. This place is amazing, you know? And for me, that's like, I'm the most proudest of that, because now I have a place where people can train jiu-jitsu in a world-class facility, you know, with world-class instruction. And they can come in and they can train however they like. Do you want to be that recreational jiu-jitsu person? No problem. You want to be that weekend warrior? No problem. You want to be that world champion? No problem. We can facilitate that, because we have all those different things put in place that we can eventually support those people. So, you know, I think it's very important that people today, you know, especially if you're looking to make the jiu-jitsu a lifelong thing, a career, you know, you got to do it right, and you got to seek out. And I tell people, if you want to do the right thing, you know, hire a mentor, hire a consultant, hire someone who knows the business and that can get you to that mark. And that's what I did. And you know what? It was probably the best thing I ever did, because what it did, it secured my financial, you know, my financial future for my family, you know. You know, like, I hate talking about it, but, like, you know, for me, I always wanted to have my own pickup truck. And it sounds stupid. Since I was a kid, since I was 4 years old, my dad had a GMC Jimmy, and I love that truck. And my father actually went bankrupt and had to actually give it back to the bank. And I was so upset. I didn't know. I was a 4-year-old kid who understands bankruptcy, right? And I told my dad, I go, when I'm an adult, I'm gonna have my own truck. And, you know, and in November, I bought myself a truck, you know, which I worked so hard for. And, you know, and for me, it's like, that's all that hard, that 20 something years of killing myself, and finally got myself a brand new truck, which, by the way, I never had a new vehicle in 15 years. I had beaters and 10, 12-year-old vehicles and stuff like that. You know, like, I was one of those people, like, and again, I almost felt guilty of actually, you know, buying that. But then, you know, I had people who told me, goes, Danny, you work so hard, you deserve it, you know. And because in Canada, it's almost frowned upon if you are successful. They think, oh, you're ripping people off. No, I'm actually providing, like you're saying, a service, just like what you guys do, right? You know, providing a service. And you know what? Why can't I support my family? Why can't I live? Now, again, like I tell people, if you want to drive a Lamborghini, well, don't own a martial arts school. Go be a crook or something like that. I don't know. There's better things to do. But to be, I honestly, I'm doing something positive for the community. I'm doing something that is going to give back to the community, and it helps transform lives. I've transformed many lives. People have become police officers. People who actually, were close to committing suicide, who are on antidepressants, and people who are on drug addictions and stuff like that, and transferring and change their lives. People who are literally like one step away of jumping off a bridge, and this is the honest truth. And when they come and tell me that, then I start realizing, man, I'm not just a stupid, simple jiu-jitsu instructor. I'm a person who's a motivator and a positive influence, and we need more of these people in society today. And like I said, it's sad to see other martial arts school close, because honestly, because I had the mentality, oh man, you know, the other jiu-jitsu guy down the street, he's my competitor. He's not my competitor. Why? Because we need people like them to help us, you know, better people. And to be honest with you, there's people who will like me, and there's people who will like the other person down the street, and that's completely fine. You know what I mean? And you know what? They may not like my personality, but they'll like him. And I've had people who've gone to other places and not like the personality or the vibe, and they come to our place and love our vibe. And you know what? I can't make everybody happy, you know? So I know I can make my tribe of people. You know, there's a great saying that one of my beloved professors who I love, Professor David Adib, one of Hoyler's high-level black belts, you know, your vibe attracts your tribe, and that's so true. And, you know, when we open, we're going to have a lot of, like, growing pains where people are going to, you know, be defiant and want to roll. And I'm like, guys, we can't roll for now. You know, like, you know, there's going to be ways around it, but not inside our, you know, physical location. And, you know, there's going to be a little bit of growing pains for a couple of weeks. But once things start to lighten up, I think then we'll go back to a normal. And you know, like I said, like I've had more positives than negatives. I had one or two people complain and, you know, and you know, and just be upset for no reason, right? You know, and I was going to call them snowflakes, but I'm not. Oh, too late. I already said it. But anyway. Yeah. So, but at the same token, you know, like you can't listen, you know, like, and it sounds terrible to say, you can't fight the system. You're going to fight it. You know, you're gonna lose. You know, I heard there was a gymnastics school out west, Western Canada, that got fined $100,000 for operating their school during the quarantine. They're done. You know, like they're never gonna financially, you know, recover from that. You know, so when I heard that, I'm like, not opening up my school, not even gonna take that chance. Now there's been some people who've been mavericks and stuff, and obviously even within the last few days, obviously with things going on, the restrictions are easing. You know, people need to be patient. Before we know it, we're gonna be back rolling. And you know, like especially like when we're doing our gradings, having 60, 70 people in the room, we'll see that again. But we just need to be patient.
I think you mentioned something very important. Don't fight. You said don't fight the system, but I think what's important is try to work within the system, try to work with the system, and then you even said it as well. We'll be back before you know it. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. You know, it's funny. You know, jiu-jitsu guys love surfing. You know, and they actually, you know, it's funny. I heard this from Kai Garcia, who's a good friend of Hoyler's, excuse me. And he even said it too. He goes, you know, life is like riding a wave. You know, it goes, if you just try and fight that wave, it's gonna eat you up. You just gotta go with the flow, and you just gotta just slip through, you know. So you gotta go with the wave.
Flow with the go.
Yeah, flow with the go. Exactly. Yeah, that's a Hickson term, but
we'll end with that. Do you have any last things to say? Do you have any sponsors to shout out? Because we don't have any.
Yeah, I think I've melted the digital tape on this thing. Not kidding. You know what? I just want to thank. Listen, you know, for me, I want to thank all of the people who've taught me in the past. You know, even students. You know, because you know what? I've learned not only from my professors and my teachers, but I've learned from students. I've learned from my mistakes, and you know. I'm being a little kumbaya here, but you know, a lot of the stupid mistakes I did, you know, were really good learning lessons, and I'm happy. Yet, you know, like I'm happy I've learned from them, because if I'd never made them, I would have probably made them at a time in my life where it could have affected me in a more negative way. So, you know, I want to thank everybody. And again, I have lots of students out there that are, you know, training elsewhere and stuff like that, you know, and you know what, that's great. It's great to see them still training and stuff. You know, some have moved on because of, you know, life and whatever and stuff like that, which is great. And, you know, I've had relationships with students that, you know, didn't go well, and you know what, so be it. But, you know, at the same time, I want everybody to know that, you know, enjoy it, man, and enjoy it. Because now, like, I'm 44, and you know, I'm aging, and I'm still like, it's funny, like a professional player, you know, and you're getting into your, you know, early 40s, mid 40s, you start to feel it, and you start to second guess yourself. Should I keep doing this and stuff? And for me, I'll keep competing, because I'm a knucklehead when it comes to that stuff. But like I tell people, man, enjoy the art, man. it's art. Not, everyone says sport, but it's the art. It's a martial art. The sport, guys, I love it. I love competing. Yeah, and again, you can look at all the competition stuff that I've done, and again, everyone's gonna have their own path. And you know what? I embrace everyone's path, whether you're just coming in to learn how to defend yourself, or you want to become a world champion. Just embrace it, guys, and earn it. It's I've told one student, earn it. Earn every time you're on the mat. Every time you do something, whether you tap someone or they tap you out, man, earn it and understand it and appreciate it, because that's what's going to define you as who you are. And like I said, I'm gonna die as a jiu-jitsu, black belt, hopefully a master, and that would be really cool. That's something I never really think about. I don't really care. And it's true. As you get older, it's just pieces of tape on the belt. That just shows to people. It just shows to people that, hey, I just have this much experience. But you know what? At the same time, I can give you wisdom and direction. I'll steer the ship in the direction you want it to go. That's it.
Oh, that's awesome. Listen, Dan, I want to thank you very much for coming on here. It's amazing hearing your stories, wealth of knowledge, everything that we were able to get through. I do appreciate everything you've done today. I wish you and your family all the best throughout the next couple of weeks. I really hope we're all back to rolling soon. Like you said, patience, and then we'll get back to the club soon enough, and we'll be rocking.
Yeah, I'm actually rolling with my son, quite a bit, and he's a big boy. He's crushing the crap out of me. So I'm actually looking forward to rolling with lighter people down the road. He's getting good, the kid, man. Even my nephew's been training with me. My nephew's is spent the last 2 weeks with me. So, he's 14 years old. He's a little kid, but man, the kid's good, man. Man, I wish I was, I started when I was 16, man. He's 14. He's wicked already. So, that was our dream. That was my brother's dream, my dream, to see it come to where it is today. So I'm proud of what we've done, and I'm proud of seeing the community grow to where it is. Even seeing you guys, like you guys are running great program and stuff where you guys are and stuff. So we're all gonna benefit. Just like in Brazil, man. Brazil, they have like jiu-jitsu schools in every corner, man. 4 corners of a street, and it's basically it's a brotherhood, brotherhood, sisterhood. So
we're gonna have to have you on again. I think we're just scratching the surface. I think we can.
I don't even think we really got to the meat and potatoes, dude. Like, we're gonna have you on again for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? I tell people, like, sometimes I had a student years ago stand next to me, Marco Costa, Richie Nanku, and Justin Bruckman. And he actually, after, he goes, man, it's terrible. I had a jiu-jitsu hard on. He goes, it was Viagra, bro. Because everything you guys were talking about, I was just like, oh, give me more. And I'm like, and he even said, he counted all the years of experience. He goes, there's over 100 plus years of experience, right? Like, just with you guys talking. And I'm like, man, we got war stories that we can talk about, that we can fill up maybe 10 podcasts, But and you're right. I haven't even talked about half the stuff, a hundredth of the stuff that's happened even in the grappling arts days. And that's actually a lot of the stuff that people need to hear, a lot of the history. Just like the Gracie Academy back in the days in the the 50s, 60s, and 70s. A lot of people don't know the history, and I've been very fortunate to be around many family members. I can honestly stand here and say I'm probably I'm probably one of the most knowledgeable guys for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu history, because I've Horian Gracie, Hoyce, Higson, obviously Hoyler, Holker, Hobbit. I've trained with all those guys. Henzo, Carlos Gracie Jr. I've rolled with him. I trained with the Machado brothers, and man, like, I've trained with so many people, and again, if I wrote down the resume, I think I'd probably crash the internet or something like that. And again, I hate talking about myself. actually I had to work myself up during the drive to Montreal. It's like, okay, what the hell am I going to talk about? I'm sort of like, okay, how am I going to sound? I don't sound too facetious of me. Wow. That was a big word. Whip out the thesaurus, guys.
Fantastic job. We're 100%. We're going to have you in the coming weeks.
Yeah, so yeah, it's an hour and a half, guys. Sorry. So I talk a lot.
No.
But yeah, hey, listen, guys, you know, like I said, happy. You know, I'm happy to get back on here again, guys. You know, and again, I hope everybody enjoys a little bit of the history and stuff. You know, like I said, the grappling arts history is actually super rich. I can put photos. I have literally about 500, 600 photos of grappling arts stuff. That's not including probably the 1,000 photos I have from Bravado the last 20 years. You know, I've been at it 28 years, you know, very, very, very long time. I feel old talking about that. I used to laugh at people, you old fart, you know, you've been training for this long, you know. I think that's why Brazilians hate wearing master belts, because it's like, it just shows to people how really old they are, and they hate that stuff. You know, so I always poke fun at some of the guys. Well, I won't say who, but, you know, you can probably find out who they are, but, you know, it's like, oh, that's a nice looking belt. And they're like, shut up. I'd rather prefer wearing my black belt. Just like Carlson Gracie Sr., he wore his black belt with 9 degrees, hated wearing the red belt. You know, and that was actually a really cool story I heard from, and this is from another Carlson Gracie black belt. He's like, he freaking hated it. Just thought it was this horse shit. I wore my black belt 9 degrees. I'm like, who's going to tell him he can't do that? So anyways.
I think we'll have another episode dedicated to grappling arts.
Cool. Guys, been a slice.
Been a slice.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. All right. Bye, everybody.